Awesome. Well, really excited to be here, Shiv. I feel like we're in Pittsburgh today. We both share a strong connection to the city. Mine by marriage. My wife is from here, alongside 5 generations of her family, and so I get to come here all the time, both to visit you, to visit the family. But I will say, after meeting all of her cousins, you're probably still the biggest Steelers fan I know, and so you hold it down.
Yeah.
But I think look, a bridge is become probably one of the top deployed AI applications in the broader ecosystem today. Just, over 150 systems you're in, over 50 million clinical conversations. Just the scale is kind of mind-boggling. I know you obviously started here, and it's been, as you like to say, a 7-8 year journey that's become an overnight success. Would love just maybe for our audience to start. Can you contextualize that journey from starting here in Pittsburgh all the way to being the mammoth, over $5 billion valued company you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's awesome to be on stage with you. This is our first time together.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see if you invite me back.
Yeah, we'll see. So such a privilege to be in front of everyone here. Means a lot, obviously, to be here in Pittsburgh, in my hometown, where I live, 5 minutes away. A little bit about the company and about myself. So we started a bridge in 2018. So yeah, many-year journey, but the last 3 or 4 years have been like the inflection moment. Prior to this, I was an executive at UPMC, working across the street also at UPMC Enterprises, also cardiology at UPMC Presby and UPMC McGee. A couple lifetimes ago, as a kid, went to Carnegie Mellon University as an undergrad, and in the middle became a cardiologist. So I got to play sort of corporate VC at UPMC. It was amazing. Got to learn from people much smarter than me osmotically, on the deal team, on the product team, on the engineering team. And in late 2017, it was clear that I really wanted to fully focus on this idea. So I left UPMC to start this company, and I started it with people from Carnegie Mellon. And my CTO, my co-founder right now, his name's Zach Lipton. He's an associate professor at Carnegie Mellon University. He's full-time with us, and he's recruited so many folks from Carnegie Mellon. There's so much Carnegie Mellon and healthcare in our DNA. It means so much, and I think it's had such an impact on our trajectory over the years too.
Yeah, I mean, the combination of UPMC and Carnegie Mellon as the starting point, it doesn't get more Pittsburgh than that. So it's
Totally.
very cool to see. I think anyone that spends time with you knows that you just exude mission and how important that is for what a bridge is trying to do. And I think some of the phrases I've heard you use a lot is about restoring humanity in medicine and, really allowing people to focus back at the point of care and conversation. Maybe just talk a little bit about that mission and how it kind of extends throughout everything you do at a bridge.
Yeah. So everything that we're building at a bridge is really based on this idea that healthcare is about people. And you and I can attest that so many folks in Silicon Valley truly believe that in the next 5 years, we're going to fully automate doctors and nurses. And I just don't think that's true. You don't believe that either. And if we truly believe that for the foreseeable, we're going to need to see doctors and nurses when we get really sick in the hospital or in a clinic, then one of the first signals in healthcare is spoken. It's a conversation, it's dialogue like this. And those conversations drive so many workflows in healthcare. They're upstream of clerical work like clinical documentation. So I see patients 1 weekend a month, and when I was last
Which is still insane that you managed to fit that in with being one of the busiest founders I know.
And it's very selfish too, because I get to dog food a bridge. I get to use what we're building and bring those insights back to the team. But when I was last rounding in the hospital, after every single encounter, you're thinking about writing this note. And when the AI can generate the clinically useful note that a cardiologist would be proud of, but also the note that is compliant, that checks off all the boxes related to what these notes need to do downstream of clinical work. So one of the key theses for us that you know full well is that these notes are actually bills. And no doctor went to medical school to become a biller, to become a coder, to become a revenue cycle expert, to become experts on what they call risk adjustment. We went to medical school, and nurses go to nursing school to serve people. And so what we try to do is train our models on revenue cycle and risk adjustment and E&Ms and CPTs and clinical documentation guidelines. And we train our models on all the different symptoms, medications, diagnoses, and procedures, how to recognize the way they're said, but also document them correctly, so that clinicians can just focus on the person in front of them.
Yeah. And I think that resonates with anybody who's ever been, to a doctor visit themselves and seen a doctor typing away at a computer and, walks out of that visit and is trying to remember what in the world happened. I remember it's just something that's so visceral to anyone that's experienced it. And I think for so long, I've been investing in healthcare for over a decade, and there haven't been a lot of products that physicians have really loved. And I think one thing that's so telling about a bridge is just the love you get across the board. I remember when we were considering investing in you, the head of my fund was, I don't know, what's this, a bridge thing? Yeah. And he was at dinner with a bunch of doctors. Yeah, I think they were like definitely multiple beverages into this dinner. Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, we're looking at this company, a bridge," and one of the doctors said, "Stop what you're doing right now. We're recording a video and sending it to the CEO. I love this product so much." I don't think that we do a lot of investing in like infrastructure software, and I can't say that happens the same way in any of that.
Yeah, totally. I just opened up my phone to go into our company communication platform. We use Slack. And I opened up this channel called Love Stories. So every single day we have users sending us these testimonials that we call Love Stories that just programmatically get funneled into this channel. So every single engineer in the company, if they're thinking, well, why am I here and not OpenAI or Anthropic? Well, they can go into this channel and kind of get a great reminder. So I'll read you one. This is from a rural health PCP at Tanner Health. She wrote to us some time ago. "I was sitting at dinner last week and my son asked me, 'Mommy, why aren't you working right now?' I literally took my phone out and explained to him that a bridge is a new tool that lets mommy come home early and eat dinner with her family. I started to tear up and looked over at my husband, who then said, 'Mommy's going to be able to eat dinner with us every night now.'" So that's the stuff we get every day. Thank you.
It's really powerful, and I think as you think about all the different early use cases for some of these models, and a lot of people are trying things in different industries, and not all of it's worked. I think it's really just incredible that this has ended up being an application that works so well. Because I mean, what an incredibly powerful impact.
I mean, it's so wild for healthcare to adopt AI.
Yeah, we're never like at the cutting. I'm shocked that we've been first here.
And you invest across all the different sectors.
Yeah.
We were just talking about robotics investments that you've made back there, and I'm curious your take. As you look across legal, you have a legal investment, a legal AI investment. You look at robotics, you have a robotics investment. That's unfortunately not our hometown company, but we'll let it go. You've got us in healthcare, and you got so many other winners. Yeah. And by the way, Redpoint is the VC that invested in Stripe and in Snowflake and and Ramp and so many of these iconic companies that all of us probably are familiar with or use on a daily basis. So I'm curious, what are you seeing across different industries? What's so different and surprising about healthcare?
Yeah. I mean, I think what's been fascinating about investing in AI is it really requires you to unlearn all these rules that you've learned throughout a decade of venture investing. And so, I think you take healthcare specifically, there was just these rules. It felt like there was just a normal gravity in healthcare. Like things happen slowly and you sell into health systems and it takes a really long time and it's hard to build a product that people really like. And the adoption scale that you guys have had in these last few years, I mean, it really just defies the physics of the industry. And what's ironic, I think, about a lot of AI applications is the areas where we've seen the most adoption to start are actually traditionally areas that would have been no-goes for VCs, like selling to law firms, to hospitals. There's a lot of folks that have tried doing that over the years, logistics companies, and a lot of folks that haven't been able to build really game-changing products. And I think what's been fascinating is a lot of these industries have been really starved for effective technology. And AI is kind of the ability to really build products that are 10, 100 times better and lead to a story like that. I don't think a lot of the software that's been built over the last prior generation, you'd ever hear a story like that. Yeah. And so it's been fascinating to see. If you asked me 5 years ago, hey, do you think your last 3 investments would be in healthcare, legal, and logistics? I'd be wondering, did I get fired from Redpoint? That feels difficult. Yeah. But it's been really interesting to see the adoption rates in these spaces.
Yeah, it reminds me of there's a blog from every VC, and you guys too
we all have to be media companies now, right?
You're all media companies.
This is the job.
And Jacob has a podcast that's one of the better AI podcasts in the industry that everybody should check out. But some time ago last year, as every VC was updating their AI manifestos, there was one that put one out that I thought was especially compelling, where they likened what's happening with AI to the Daniel Kahneman book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And the idea was that when ChatGPT first came out, as all of us probably use ChatGPT, or many of us probably do on a daily basis. You're prompting it and you're getting an answer like immediately. It's like such a quick dopamine hit. The answer is absolutely instantaneous because it's pulling from seemingly memorized or regurgitated content and just like putting it in front of you, answering your question. But what this blog started to reflect on as these models become like reasoning agents, as they sort of can think through a problem, unpack it into its constituent parts, and then sort of solve for the answer, you can start to actually get jobs done, like start to finish, go all the way to the end zone. And when you think about getting jobs done and you think about industries, and I'm just reflecting on those sectors where you've been investing, there's so many jobs that we need to get done, and we need to find a way as industries, but also as a country, to find a way to get these done more efficiently. I'm thinking about Bommel's cost disease and like education, healthcare. Like there are costs that are just absolutely out of control, and we need to find a way. And there are not enough people out there for health systems, for example, or even insurance companies to employ. There was an American Journal of General Internal Medicine article that was published 2 years ago that suggested that doctors need 30 hours a day to get all of their work done. 30 hours a day. And they unpacked all the different work. So it makes total sense why doctors always feel submerged, and why 2 out of 5 doctors a few years ago said they didn't want to be doctors in the next 2 to 3 years. A year and a half or so ago, 27% of nurses in a JAMA survey, the Journal of American Medical Association, said they didn't want to be nurses in the next 12 months. So we have this crazy supply-demand mismatch. We have to find a way to get ahead of it.
Totally, and to allow the time that people are spending to be focused on patients, right, and not on all the other stuff that happens. And I think that's true of a lot of different industries. I mean, I think there's burnout and this feeling of, hey, well, when I went into this industry, maybe it was a good place to be, but now I won't tell my kids to be there. And so I hope a lot of this technology really allows these places to be better better careers and places to work. And you mentioned kind of nursing there. Obviously, I know that's a big focus of Abridge these days. I feel like nursing documentation, notoriously difficult, but you guys have taken it on. You're working with Mayo Clinic, all these other folks. Talk about that. Like, what's that been like?
Yeah. Nurses are the scaffolding for healthcare delivery. They're the backbone. And there's absolutely no world where we automate nurses anytime that I can imagine. When people really unpack all the jobs, all the work that people do in the hospital and clinics, it becomes so clear that so much of this is just so inherently human, and you wouldn't be able to replace so much of this with like a robot anytime soon. But the use case that we're focused on the nursing side is that in the inpatient space, like in the hospital, nurses will go from room to room to room. They'll maybe talk to the family member who's sitting there. They'll talk to the patient about their pain level. Maybe they'll look at how much IV fluids are left in the IV bag, or comment on the color of the urine in the Foley. Like there's a lot of stuff that they're doing simultaneously at the same time. And what our technology can do is sort of capture all that they're at least hearing and saying, and convert all of that into structured data that then populates essentially glorified spreadsheets inside the medical record that they're mandated to fill out. So very similar to clinicians, like we're mandated to write these notes because these notes are bills. Doctor notes are bills. This is how doctors and hospitals get paid. So the quality of the note is the quality of the payment, in a sense. But on the nursing side, these spreadsheets are mandated by organizations like JCO and others, and so you've got to get all this data into them in order to be compliant. And there's ramifications if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because as AI investors, people always ask us, like, what are we looking for? What are the kinds of attributes of companies that are really appealing? And one thing I keep coming back to is just velocity. Like, there's just so much to build. And there's so many interesting things you can build on top of the platform that is Abridge. And I remember for this one specifically, I think like you kind of started talking about nursing, and then a week later I remember going on around a walk in Pittsburgh and one of your engineers showing me like a light demo, and then a month later it's like deployed at Mayo. It's like unbelievable just the pace at which you guys are building a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, there's a researcher at Anthropic, I think his name is Ben Kahn, who had published this blog late last year or early this year, where he tried to break down the attributes for success in this new world, this new AI age. And the two attributes that really struck me that he breaks things down into are agency and taste. And it's fascinating. We just hired a VP of product in our company, and she's incredible. And as we were interviewing seemingly like the who's who of product leaders across like the country, we landed on her, and I think in part because she had those two attributes in spades, like high horsepower person who can grok things that are really complicated in a totally different domain than she's ever worked in healthcare the first time, but also she's got incredible agency and can drive incredibly quickly in this new world where there are new AI primitives, new tools that we can all leverage. Seemingly every couple of weeks there's something new. You need to be able to like move really, really quickly and organize a team to go really quickly, but then you've got to have judgment. And that's where like the taste piece is just so fascinating, because you look at all the different companies out there. If you can do anything in the world, what should you do in what order? And the style, the finesse, the sensibilities, the humanity with which you build these AI-centered and native technologies is pretty critical anymore to differentiate.
Yeah. No, it's cool. We were talking earlier backstage about like the broader Pittsburgh ecosystem and a bridge's impact. And I think one thing that's really powerful is there's not that many people that are deploying AI applications at this scale. And so I feel like there's so many lessons. And if you think about the past waves of technological change, the people that were early to it and really deploying products at scale, it's those people that go on to seed an ecosystem of the thousands of other startups that follow. And so I think just the experience you get playing around with everything that's required to deploy these AI models at scale, and the experience that everyone at a bridge gets doing that, it really helps seed like a broader ecosystem. And there's not that many companies, right, that are at this scale.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like we had dinner last night, and we were talking about the place where we had dinner sort of like stemmed from another restaurant, or like there was like some sort of common DNA like across multiple restaurants, and that's the case in any city. But you think about technology companies, and I was just talking to someone who was a part of the PayPal mafia yesterday. And there's like people who leave Stripe, there's people who leave Coinbase, there's people who leave all these companies and start new iconic companies. And as a company, like obviously my hope, aspiration is that one day there will be people who left a bridge and started incredible companies in Pittsburgh, elsewhere, and hopefully not anytime soon. But
agreed.
But it is like a wild moment. It just feels like things are moving so fast. So just sort of like maybe pivot just a little bit.
Yeah.
You, from time to time, will be in Pittsburgh because of family.
Of course.
But I take a lot of pride in our fundraisers over these last few years, and how I believe we were able to like significantly impact Pittsburgh's economy.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have stuff from people from the policy world here today. I think they should commission a study on the impact of your Series C fundraise on the Pittsburgh local economy. Yeah. The number of people that were flying in, the number of fancy dinners, Steelers games, everyone trying to woo you in different ways. There's no way that didn't show up in the numbers somewhere.
I'm sure it had to. I want someone to do that analysis. It was awesome because we would stage the VCs. We would force them to fly to Pittsburgh. Even if I was in San Francisco that week, I would come to Pittsburgh and force them to come here to meet us. And we would sequence them in the airport. Did you run into anybody?
Yeah, I remember shamelessly during this fundraise, but I'll confess there was, there's I think 2 flights a day from San Francisco, and I remember being on my way out and one was coming in. I'm like, I wonder who's getting off this plane. Like, I'll just there's 3 faces I recognize.
It was kind of awesome. We actually sequenced it so you would see each other.
Of course, like any shrewd fundraiser.
I remember when we were doing the C, I was going from one VC at one hotel downtown to another VC at another, and we were trying to figure out like who we wanted to work with, and obviously it was always clear that we wanted to work with you. But thinking about VC in Pittsburgh and investing in Pittsburgh, you're obviously clued in to how we've got incredibly rare ingredients here.
Yeah.
And certainly for industries like healthcare and AI, like intersection points. But we've got that, Carnegie Mellon DNA, University of Pittsburgh, we've got incredible universities, we've got a lot of really deep technical talent. And I'm curious, you've been here chasing other companies too, robotics companies, you've spoke to also recently. So like, what is your game plan? How are VCs in Silicon Valley thinking about Pittsburgh these days in this new AI world?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you've done a great job increasing the broader profile, right? If you think about what's really required for successful AI companies, it's this combination of being really deep in an industry and understanding the problems of those industries, and then having incredible AI talent. And the story of you coming from UPMC, being a practicing cardiologist, knowing the healthcare world as deeply as you do, and then combining with Zach, who's at the forefront of AI research from Carnegie Mellon, that is incredibly appealing. And I think there's a ton of amazing researchers and amazing AI talent here in Pittsburgh, as well as a ton of industry knowledge. And I think one thing that really stands out to me and makes investing in a place like Pittsburgh even more compelling is right now there's anybody who's ambitious and graduated from Stanford and San Francisco is starting an AI company, and they're all trying to recruit the same 200 people. And so as a result, they all beat each other up, and one company gets one, another company gets another. But I think and
then the employee jumps around.
Right, and then Anthropic and OpenAI come in and offer 10 times as much, and they lose those employees anyway. And so I think there's just an incredible amount of talent here in Pittsburgh, and honestly, there's less right now of that kind of knife fight between 300 different companies for it. And so I think it makes it, we're seeing a lot of really interesting AI application companies. They're not, predominantly in San Francisco. They're actually quite distributed. And I think Pittsburgh has all the ingredients. And now, with a bridge, Skilled, a bunch of these other companies, people who are on the forefront learning what is required to deploy these companies. And like you said, I hope it's not anytime soon. But in the future, those hard-won lessons, there's not that many folks out there that really have those.
Yeah, someone told me the other day that there are really 6 companies in the first set of AI innings these last few years that have inflected. And a few of those companies, or a couple of them, are foundation model companies that we all know, OpenAI and Anthropic. And so then in terms of vertical AI application companies, there's really only like a handful who have found a way to figure it out. So in this next set of innings, what do you anticipate? What are you investing in? Where do you think things are going? Because I think for people in the audience, obviously people here are building in any number of different areas.
Totally.
What are the intersection points that are most interesting?
Yeah, and so maybe to echo what you were saying, it feels like in this first wave of AI, there's kind of been 4 big winners of use cases. The first is beyond the foundation models. The first is coding. Companies like Cursor, Cognition, Anthropic's Claude Code, or OpenAI Codex. The second is really customer support. Companies like Sierra and Decagon. The third is definitely healthcare, led by a bridge. And the fourth is legal. Those are kind of the use cases that have scaled the fastest. As VCs, I think it's our job to try and figure out, as these models keep improving, what is the next set of use cases that will be unlocked? And so I think I spend a lot of time thinking about, that next wave. And there's tons of interesting stuff happening in robotics, in biology, material sciences, but also, different industries that maybe don't quite work yet. Like I think there's been a lot of go-to-market startups. There's been a lot of startups targeted at the finance industry. I don't know if those tools yet really, once after having seen product market fit at a bridge, it sets a high bar, and I wouldn't say that those industries have product market fit yet. But it's really, we're focused on where are the model capabilities and also the surrounding scaffolding going that enable a bunch of these new use cases. And I think if we continue on this crazy exponential path of model improvement, there'll just be more and more use cases that are enabled. But obviously, some of these questions are hard to answer. Like, when will robotics models be ready for prime time? It could look like large language models, or it could look like self-driving cars.
Yeah, totally. There's like a Sam Altman quote, not recently, probably like a couple of years ago, that if a new model improvement at the foundational layer makes you sweat as a company, you're probably on the wrong side of it.
Yeah.
But if you're celebrating, then you're going to catch an incredible wave, or you have the opportunity to. So what's been interesting for us, and you mentioned Zach, is that we see ourselves as a vertical AI company that's T-shaped, and that we're going really deep, millions of miles deep, on a narrow use case in a specific industry that exposes us to proprietary data sets that allows us to build our own models that can live on top of those foundation models, or with which we can fine-tune those models and then post-train those models to basically create differentiation and even defensibility at a lower level of the stack. And obviously, any company has to think about moat in all the usual ways, whether it's switching costs or brand or network effects. But being able to think about data network effects, being able to think about moat at that technological layer is something that folks in Pittsburgh, in a city like this, with not just the scientific pedigree, but also these access to these proprietary data sets in very specific industries, can go after in a way that others can't.
Totally. I mean, I think the science has always been so at the forefront of what you do, and whether it's been publishing very early on a lot of these different metrics that matter in this space, or kind of continuing to push the field forward on reducing hallucinations or expanding specialties or languages. There's so much fundamental. These companies are very different than traditional software companies, where you're just kind of like building. There's both a combination of workflow and then deep science. And I think, again, there's so much deep science talent around here that it really makes it a very attractive ecosystem for VCs. I hope those flights are extra full the next few years.
Totally. And we should hold Jacob accountable to opening up a Red Point Squirrel Hill office on Murray Alley.
Nothing would make my in-laws happier. I can promise you that.
Awesome.
I think I'd be in the family good graces for
I think you would. You would. Yeah. We watched the Steelers game, the Series V or the Series C.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
and I was like trying to woo Shiv. I desperately wanted to invest in a bridge, and I was like, "This is high stakes. There's a Steelers playoff game. Like, I hope he's in a good mood, that they'll win." Unfortunately, did not go their way. I think this was in like the Mason Rudolph days, so a little more challenging. And I was just watching them go down, and I was like, "Have I lost my chance here? Like, did I really just not think this through?" But you were resilient.
Yeah, that's what we have here. We have grit.
Yeah,
we have.
You also told me you thought he would be a long-term franchise quarterback. After seeing him complete one garbage time pass.
I started optimistic.
I was like, I appreciate the optimism. My wife's introduced me to be a massive Pitt basketball fan, and we definitely needed some optimism too. So I get
Yeah. Well, in terms of optimism, in terms of the future, in terms of these new model improvements, in terms of where we want to see the world go, there is this moment right now where I think cities like Pittsburgh, with humility, companies like a Bridge can bend the trajectory for how we actually leverage AI and the kind of impact that we create in the world. And we are building with this thesis that the best job that AI can do is bring people closer together, to actually make us all feel more human and get all the judgery out of the way. And with that in mind, I think what's interesting to think about and reflect upon, which is very specifically Pittsburgh related, is a recent announcement that we made around prior authorization.
Yeah, this was like I felt like a peak Pittsburgh announcement too, because you were doing it with what, AHN and Highmark and
and something that we'll hope to scale to UPMC and every other health system across the country. But certainly we've had the opportunity to get creative with Highmark on this and AHN. But the idea is that, say we're talking in a clinic, the AI is listening to our conversation, and if I order a cardiac MRI for you, then when I hit stop, there's no beeping sounds, no flashing lights that distract me from you. But when I hit stop and look down, I can get the cue that, hey, you just ordered a cardiac MRI, and Jacob happens to have whatever insurance and whatever geography, and you asked 5 out of the 7 questions in order to get approval from the insurance company. Do you want to think about those 2? And then I can hit record again and close those final gaps and instantly on the spot get the approval from the insurance company. And that means patients don't have to wait weeks, maybe months to get that approval, first and foremost. That means clinicians don't have to get on the phone and basically make their case to doctors at the insurance company on why you deserve the cardiac MRI instead of the cardiac CT or the echocardiogram. And that means, from a system level, more efficient care over time should be deflationary. It should be more efficient. We don't need these armies, at least for a specific set of procedures, having to adjudicate and interrogate every single decision that a clinician makes. What if we just help the clinicians understand, at the point of care?
I remember you showed that in a board meeting and everyone's jaws just dropped, because I feel like it's one of those things that, we were talking earlier about the healthcare conference circuit, and there's lots of things that people talk about for a long time. And I feel like this has been a dream of people, maybe, one day in 2050 we'll have a system that looks like that. And to actually be implementing it, to have it live, to be impacting patients, clinicians, it's just one of the powerful things you can build on top of this platform you have, and really impressive and awesome that it started here.
Yeah, absolutely, and just this morning, just to further, hammer home how incredible it is to have these leverage points here in the area. I was talking to a health system outside of Pittsburgh. I was talking to someone at Duke, but also talking to someone at UPMC about quality metrics in the hospital system and how we can programmatically capture some of that stuff and help health systems, help hospitals get full credit for the quality of care that they're delivering, because there's such a information capture sort of challenge. So sky's the limit for healthcare. There's no question about it. We can build forever, and that's been our thesis all along.
Totally. What do you what's your kind of vision for where what a bridge looks like in 5-10 years?
Yeah, the time machine's broken. Everything's broken. Like
It's dog years in AI world, so it's probably like next month. But
oh my God, we can't even predict. We cannot predict anything. We can't predict we're not doing. I don't know. 12 months is a lot.
Yeah,
and
I feel that way. As VCs, we just have to confidently say something, and then hope no one checks the record when it's completely off.
Yeah, totally. I was talking to a hospital system the other day in San Francisco who was trying to make a 5-year AI plan, but we both looked at each other like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, like a 3-month plan.
Not going to make it. Ultimately, I think the thesis that will continue to serve us, because every company needs a strong idea that they hold tightly to. That ends up being your mission. And for us, the strong idea that we hold tightly to is that healthcare is about people. When we started the company in 2018, I remember seeing a patient in my weekly clinic, cardiology clinic, 50 years old, 10-year history of breast cancer. She was seeing me because she was about to start doxorubicin, a specific chemotherapy, and she needed my clearance as a cardiologist because it can impact your heart muscle. And over the course of those 30, 45 minutes, she was incredibly anxious. She's a professor at the University of Pittsburgh. She allows us to tell this story. She's just crawling out of her skin. You could tell that she was not happy to be there. And at the end of the visit, I asked her why and if there was something I did or something I said to make her so clearly uncomfortable. And she told me that for the last 10 years, her husband had come to every single visit with a new doctor, but he couldn't make it this time. And so I asked her, well, what does he do that's not obvious? And she told me that he just sits in the corner, he's quiet, he just takes notes. And she told me, incredibly eloquently, she told me that him taking notes meant that she could be more present with me. She could make eye contact. She could feel like she was in the moment and not feel paranoid that when she got home, she wouldn't have answers to all of her family members asking, what did the doctor say? So her taking notes, or him taking notes, meant they could also go home, and at the time, pre-GBT, they could Google, search all of these big words, and rewrite their stories in words they understood, and then go to the next doctor and retell their story, feeling like the main characters, as opposed to someone looking in from the outside. And I think the key reflection and why I quit my job at UPMC to fully focus on a bridge that month was that really what we need in healthcare is more agency. Like what she was looking for was more agency in her care journey. What I'm looking for as a professional, as a doctor, is more agency because I need 30 hours a day to get all of my work done, and I'm not delivering the kind of care and the kind of care experience that I wish I could. And so if AI can create more agency for people, then we're doing it right. And I think that's the opportunity that's in front of us for many, many years to come at a bridge.
Yeah, I mean, it's just incredibly inspiring, and I think I feel it feels just great for the world that this has been one of the applications of AI that's taken off in the way it is. I think the impact you're able to have at this level of scale, and also just where this all goes from here is incredibly exciting. And it's not always sometimes it feels like some of the first products in tech waves are a little gimmicky, or I don't know, they're like fun image generation or whatever. But to have you're really one of the top 3-5 fastest growing AI companies out there, period, and to be doing it in such a mission-driven space and having the impact you're having. I feel lucky to be an investor in the company, and I think the world is lucky to have a bridge. So it's really, really impressive to see.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Should we open things up for questions? I don't know. Okay, we got like 5 minutes for questions. Any questions from the audience? We are happy to take some. Otherwise, I can keep giving random questions to Shiv. But if anyone has a question, happy to answer. Yeah, or I don't know. You can call him.
Shiv, I saw you at Rockaway Pizza the other day. What'd you think?
Yeah, it was great. It was awesome. We needed that place.
These are the hard-hitting questions that I was supposed to be at.
I think I bring some fun to it. Maybe Jacob doesn't know this is like the hot new pizza place. Dave Portnoy gave it like the best
Let's
score.
spend 5 minutes talking about pizza. So
Shiv and I exclusively go to Apteca, I feel like, so it's good to expand our...
Apteca is our spot for sure, but I lived in New York City for the summer. That was like my in-laws are from New York, so gave them home field advantage for a couple months. Otherwise, we all live here in Squirrel Hill, but we went to every single pizza place. So Rockaway was it was really great to come back and have that, because like that New York style slice. We should debate what's the best New York slice. I have strong opinions. But
I'm excited to try it, and thank you
try Rockaway.
for expanding our repertoire here. I appreciate it.
So, hey, it's interesting that you talk about the love stories. I was having dinner with some friends the other day, and I mentioned that I'm a software developer in AI, and one of them is a clinician, and he mentioned that apparently they are using a bridge, and he was saying about how much it helps them. So I know we ran into each other like coming up the elevator, but my question to you was, in the world of AI, we talk about how it's augmenting the way that people work. I'm curious from the medical perspective how the imbalance kind of happened there, where people were in their pajamas taking these clinician notes during extra time, where AI is kind of adjusting it to get back into a reasonable degree. Whereas in a lot of other industries, we're talking about freeing up their time to do other additional work. So like, how did that imbalance kind of happen within that industry, and like, how was AI like the helping and adjusting that back to a normalcy?
Yeah,
I think
totally.
the question. I think I'm supposed to repeat them real fast.
Oh, I
I think
got
the
it.
question is, about how do we get to this imbalance where you're supposed to be working 30-hour days?
Yeah. Well, we got 5 minutes, and I'm gonna,
History of healthcare.
Yeah. But if you're familiar with XKCD, I think it was XKCD, maybe it was something different. There was like a cartoon graphic some years ago that tried to depict Conway's Law, this idea that you, as a company, you build what you look like. How you structure your organization is what your product ends up looking like. And so they had Amazon there, and everything was kind of going up to Bezos at the time. There was Apple there, and it was like this cartoon graphic of circles before they even built their headquarters as a circle. There was like Meta and Google that resembled sort of like graph networks. And then there was Microsoft, pre-Nadella, and there were silos pointing guns at each other. And that's what healthcare is. And so, you know, there's payers, there's providers, there's any given number of stakeholders, and they're not aligned always with the patient and what's right for outcomes, and also as a system for costs. And we're all trying as an industry to create those alignments, where it comes back to a bridge in our very, very humble way. Like, we believe that technology is actually disruptive when it changes the business model of the system. When technology can help a clinician spend more time and then deliver a better experience over time, a better outcome, well, then it actually opens up the possibility for us to actually incent the clinician and compensate them for that better outcome and that better experience over time. We can start to like shift incentives in a way that we've just like have not found it to be feasible and possible in the past. And so I think we're, over the next 5 years, if we do this right, we'll start to see a lot more of what they call value-based care, new variants of value-based care, where you're compensated for the outcomes as opposed to, you know, getting paid more for the more that you can do, the more that you can order, and the more that you can diagnose or prescribe. I'm bullish, you know, but I'm also an optimist.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the platform that you have to really work with all these different stakeholders and kind of find these win-wins and just ways to improve, you know, outcomes and healthcare for everyone is part of what I think makes the position so compelling.
Hey, nice to meet you. Rich DeClaudio. I am on the health plan board at UPMC, and I co-chair the AI subcommittee. We love your product. It's going quite well. Talking to several of the doctors as part of what we do, if you recall, we were at Microsoft Copilot before they all love your product, but say it kills their phone battery, and they end up not being able to actually use it in the second half of their day. And so a lot of them have been saying, can you get to anyone at a bridge and see if they can do anything about their battery charge? So I'm going to throw
I
that
appreciate
out
that. I know what the issue is. This is now we're going to get into IT customer support here. But
I mean, great time to
we might as well do this.
Yeah.
It's the way that audio is streamed. We actually don't control that streaming. Our electronic medical record partner, Epic, controls the streaming, and it wasn't the case with the prior kind of solution that you had. And so we have submitted our own ticket to them, asking them to fix this issue. So, but their issues, everybody's like the customer's issue is our issue, so we'll figure it out.
I guess if the IT ticket is we like using the product so much that we're using it throughout the day. Good,
Yeah,
good
yeah,
IT ticket.
that's not
to have.
acceptable though, because like we have it's actually a real technical problem that is easily fixable.
Sorry, should I go? Okay. Hi, Shiv. Very nice conversation. Thank you for the insights and congrats on the amazing growth. I'm founder of an earlier stage startup here in Pittsburgh. We do predictive patient monitoring, monitoring EHR biosensor data. And I'm curious to know what is your opinion about the future. And I'm obviously super psyched about the impact of ambient AI and Breach is bringing to the healthcare, but also really want to know what you think is excited about the opportunity of opening a new real-time source of data about data we didn't know, about conversations, about more details, and solving a lot of data missingness issues that was preventing solving a lot of problems like sepsis. So I'm curious to know what is your opinion about where that trajectory is going, and what would be the role of companies like a Breach in opening that data in real time to further processing. Would love to know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think that it feels like the barriers to entry have been as high as the barriers to exit in healthcare and the healthcare industry at large for many, many years. And that's why there's so many companies that can be inside between those walls and not feel the pressure to innovate. But the barriers to entry are coming down now, and AI is a part of that. And what that's leading to is a lot more modern technology stacks, a lot more real-time data flows, and what you're building is super exciting. But I think there's an opportunity to marry what you're building with what we're building as well, because what if we can deliver a lot of those insights to the point of the conversation itself so that the clinician understands that they should be worried about sepsis because of X, Y, Z. So I think a lot of dots are going to connect, but real-time is absolutely like the direction that we got to go as an industry.
Yeah. Well, I've got a flashing red light in front of me, which I assume means that I'm being ushered off stage. But I just want to say a huge thanks to Shiv. It's an unbelievable company.
And thanks to you.
incredible
Thanks to
impact.
Jacob.
And thank you so much for having us. Seriously, pleasure to be here.